Welcome to Astro Dog. I'm Marcel, and congratulations, because you're probably thinking about buying a telescope and a mount. So I'm here to talk about mounts today mainly, and honestly it's something very few people put enough thought into at the beginning. So I'm just going to explain the mounts that we have here and why we have the ones that we do. So let's just have a look at a telescope and I'll start talking about the mounts. So this is a really lovely telescope. We'll talk more about it maybe later. But let's suppose that this is a telescope that you've set your heart on. How are you going to use it? There's two main ways that you can use a telescope. One of the ways is to look at terrestrial or earth-wide observation, and the second is the stars up there. Now, if you're going to be looking at using it as a terrestrial scope, what you want to be able to do with it is move it around. You want to move it up and down. If there's a bird up there, you want to go up like that. And then you might want to quickly change targets. Okay, now if you're looking at an object up in the sky, it's a little bit different. You'll want to go up, and what you want to be able to do is follow it along. Now everything up there moves, and it won't stay in one position for long. So you're naturally going to need to adjust the telescope so that the target that you're looking at is going to stay in your field of view. Now, why is that important? Well, every time you touch that telescope, it's going to move just a little bit, even if it's on a tripod. The amount of adjustment or wobble after you move and let go, that is very critical to your viewing. Every time you touch the telescope, it's going to wobble for about 5 or 6 seconds. By the time that it all settles down and you're ready to look at it, it may already have moved on. What's the fun in that? It is an absolute killer. So a lot of telescopes that are sold in department stores, like Aldi and other places, they feature very, very light mounts, which are fairly unsuitable. Because, as I explained, the moment you touch them, they're going to wobble all over the place, and they're actually called hobby killers. So we would recommend avoiding them and getting a decent mount, one that will allow you to hold it solidly, where it will quickly settle, and it's also easy to navigate. One rule, I'm not big on rules, but this is a big one. If you're planning on doing terrestrial observation, you must not get an EQ mount. You will need to get an altitude azimuth mount. Alright, and that was going to be so much better for you. So let's have a look at some AZ mounts and see what we have. Today I'm mainly showing off the Kson AZ mount. The Kson AZ4 mount is probably one of the easiest mounts we have. We have a Kson AZ2 and an AZ4. The AZ4 is by far the one to go for, if you can afford it, that is. Not that it's expensive, but it is just so easy to use. The way you use it, you just pack it away. When you're ready to use it, you simply lift the adjuster, you drop that, pull it up, drop it down, and you're done. That's your mount. And what you will do now is you can put your telescope in here, and this will move your telescope left and right. This part will move it up and down, and you're going to very easily be able to use it. The other thing I'll just briefly show you is I'm going to show you, if you want to make large movements, there are lock knobs on the side here that you can release, and when you release them, that will completely open up the full movement, and then when you tighten it down, these slow motion controls are activated, and away you go. This is a remarkably solid mount, partially also because, if you can see here, you actually have got two locks on your Vixen, where your Vixen bar goes, and so it holds it not with one, but actually with two. So this is actually what they call a double saddle, which is a very unusual feature in a good quality AZ mount. So that's the first one that we'd recommend just for basic AZ viewing. These are absolutely fantastic, and as I said, they're extremely easy to pack up and use. It just takes a few seconds. and you're done. You can take it inside, put it back, and away you go. So this is the EQ4L. It can bear a load of roughly about up to 3 or 4 kilos quite comfortably. All right, so that would very easily do for a nice telescope like we have over there. Let's start talking about the EQ4 mounts now. And we're just going to talk about this one here. So this is the venerable Saxon EQ3 with a steel tripod. It's a superb mount. We love this one. If you're just going to have one for celestial observation, this would be it. And it's also outfitted with a pier extension. Now the purpose of the pier extension is if you have a very large or long telescope, you won't knock it against the tripod legs when you're trying to look at something straight up. So that's the point of having the pier extension. And they are very solid, very good mounts. Unfortunately, this whole kit, the way you see it here, is also quite heavy and comes in at approximately 20 kilograms. So if you can just imagine grabbing that and dragging that out, it is quite heavy. So you'll probably have to disconnect here, take off these controls at the very least, and then you can probably manhandle that back into your garage and so on. It's, as I said, it is a beautiful mount. We sell heaps of these and they are very much recommended. However, the price of these has also gone up a fair bit. So they're now quite expensive to get started with, particularly if you want the steel tripod version. So Kson have released a EQ mount that was manufactured partly to fill a gap in the market. And that is for something that is pretty much as good as that, except a lot lighter. And so that's what we're just going to look at briefly. Now I have deliberately not fully assembled this so I can show you how to put it together. So the way this works, this pier extension, is that it fits on the top. You fasten the screws here. The top plate, which normally goes here, does come off, and you fasten it to here. So this is actually the top plate of the pier extension, and then you screw that in, and that becomes the new top. And you have got bolts on the side here, which you would then put through here, and that will then fasten from the pier extension directly into here. All of these, this is all steel as well, so steel, and away you go. So let's set that up. These will fit in here, like so. And then you use these bolts to fasten it up. And there are 3 of them, but I'm just going to do it one for our purposes. And away you go. Now again, you have the same double saddle system that you have on the AZ3, except that this one is of course equatorial. It has got the capability of having a motor put on. Kson are currently developing a motor. That will be another few months before we have those, but that will then support a motor drive. You also have got your polar scope that you can install and put in if you wanted to. That's fairly useless on the southern hemisphere just because of where we are on the planet, but if you're in the northern hemisphere, you've got Polaris, go for it. You're going to be able, you've got your adjustment here, which you of course set to your latitude, and then we have got micro adjustments on the side. So you can move the mount just in minuter mounts by using these screws on the side, so they're going to move left and right. So when you have got a rough alignment done, this will allow you to do a fine alignment for the purposes of tracking an object across the sky really accurately. What's the point of having it on an angle like this? The point of having it on an angle like this is that you're going to be able to use the slow motion controls that come with it to track an object across the target. All you need to do, rather than constantly tapping and pushing a tube, you have a slow motion control. You simply turn it and it will perfectly track an object exactly across the sky. You will not need to use 2. You just need to have 1. That's to find it, and then away you go. If you're looking for a new target, you release and you undo the locks. There we are. That will let you find your new target according to what you're looking at. Once you've found the target, you lock the target, it's locked in. You'll use your slow motion controls and you will track that object perfectly across the sky. No matter what you do and what object you look at and where it is and what you're doing here, because of this tilt is exactly set to where you are, it's always going to be really, really easy to use. So the other thing to mention is the lightness of this mount. It's made of fiberglass and nylon, so it is extremely tough, made for Australian conditions, and yet it weighs extremely little. So this whole setup here, you can lift that up with one hand quite easily. The other amazing thing about that mount is at the moment it comes with a transport bag for the mount itself. So this bit here will go into here. You've got your bag here, that's for the tripod, and you also have got your counterweight bag, which holds all of your counterweights quite nicely. And also the counterweights, they have a nice plastic insert as well, and that means that the counterweight rod won't get scratched or damaged. It'll stay looking quite nice, and that's really, really simple to use. So I hope that's given you a little bit of an overview of the various mount systems. Just as a bit of a summary, you've got your old azimuth mount, which goes up and down, left and right, which you can use for terrestrial or celestial, that is star viewing, and it's very easy and intuitive to figure out how to use. If you are going to be using it only for star viewing, you can consider getting a decent equatorial mount. This one here will bear a lot of weight. It's a remarkably good mount. We have had one up to 9 kilograms. The Kson can be mounted on this, and it will do quite well on it. So it's a tough mount and a lightweight mount. So I hope that helps. Thank you very much.